brothers and sisters. Welcome to today's reflection. Today we celebrate an important event of our Christian faith, the coming of the Holy Spirit, and the Church invites us to meditate on the following readings. The first reading from Acts of the Apostles, chapter 2, verses 1 to 11. The second reading from the first letter of St. Paul to the Corinthians, chapter 12, verses 3 to 7, 12 to 13, and the Gospel according to John, chapter 20, verses 19 to 23. Among the Jews in the Old Testament, the feast of the Pentecost was when Jewish pilgrims gathered in Jerusalem from various parts of the world, Europe, Asia, and Africa, to celebrate the festival of Thanksgiving for the first fruits of their harvests. While the crowds were celebrating, the apostles were in the upper room praying. It was on such a feast of Pentecost that the Holy Spirit descended on the apostles. Pentecost acquired a new meaning from that day onwards. It became the fulfillment of Jesus' promise. It marks the beginning when God began to dwell among His people in a totally new way. In Acts, we see the miraculous transformation that took place during Pentecost. The frightened apostles were transformed into brave witnesses of Jesus, powerfully proclaiming Him as the Messiah. The apostles spoke, and people of different nations heard and understood them as though they were speaking in their native tongue. Thus the curse of the Tower of Babel was reversed. And the building of the Tower of Babel, God dispersed them, giving them different languages that resulted in their not understanding one another. After Pentecost, the disciples communicated in the language of the Spirit, and everyone understood in their own native language, and they were amazed. So it is important to notice that what we communicate has the power to build or destroy, unite or scatter, and give life or take life. The gift of tongue is at its fullness when the tongue utters what builds, unites, and gives life. The Holy Spirit in some people is either inactive or minimally active. Some people, although have received the sacraments of baptism, confirmation, reconciliation, Holy Communion, and may have received some other sacraments, are like the believers in Ephesus, whom Paul asked, "Did you receive the Holy Spirit when you became believers?" They answered him, "We have never heard that there is a Holy Spirit." Archbishop Fulton once said about the church that even though we are God's chosen people, we often behave more like God's frozen people, frozen in our prayer life, frozen in the way we relate to one another, frozen in the way we celebrate our faith. The celebration of Pentecost Sunday is a prayer for our individual Pentecost experience to be empowered by the Holy Spirit. In the Gospel, we heard that the disciples locked themselves in a room for fear of Jews, but Jesus passed through the locked doors, stood in their midst, and blessed them with peace and the power of the Holy Spirit. He replaced their fear with peace and empowered them with the Holy Spirit to free them from self-imprisonment. Fear or guilt or shame or self-pity or anger or unforgiveness or failure or inadequacy, or sin, or despair may have driven someone to look himself or herself up. Today is a great day to ask the Holy Spirit to rekindle in us the spirit of new life and enthusiasm, the spirit of God's love. St. Paul declares, "For you and for me, now the Lord is the Spirit, and where the Spirit of the Lord is, there is freedom." May we receive the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, to guard our hearts and our minds in Jesus Christ.